It's probably one of the most common, just almost thoughtless actions we take in our modern lives.
Yes.
You're sitting on your couch, you find something you like on your phone, you tap a little button that says buy, and, well, you wait for that dopamine hit, right? The little order confirmed screen.
Yeah, and it takes, what, maybe 2 seconds?
Right, maybe 2 seconds tops. But the thing is, what you probably don't realize is that in those 2 seconds behind that single click, you have just stepped into this invisible, high-stakes battleground. I mean, it is an absolute war zone of commerce, risk, and really trust, all happening in the background while you're just, waiting to see if your credit card went through.
It really is. I mean, in those milliseconds, there's an incredibly complex series of algorithmic decisions being made about you. It's asking, are you who you say you are? Are you a sophisticated criminal ring operating out of some massive server farm? Are you a bot?
Or are you just a regular person trying to buy a pair of shoes?
Exactly. Just a person buying shoes. But it's this massive invisible machinery that basically governs almost every digital transaction on the planet right now.
And that is exactly our mission for today.
Mm-hmm.
We are taking a deep dive into this fascinating stack of 2026 reports, product overviews, and industry insights from a company called Signifyd. They're a commerce protection platform for e-commerce retailers.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal today is to unpack the hidden mechanics of online shopping. We're going to look at how merchants out there are really trying to balance the absolute terror of being defrauded.
Which is a very real terror.
Yeah, with the desperate need to make your shopping experience as frictionless as possible. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because to grow, any business needs trust.
Yeah.
But in a fully digital world, extending trust to an anonymous screen that's like thousands of miles away is incredibly risky.
It's the defining tension of modern retail, really. But what's fascinating about the material from Signifyd is how they reframe that exact problem. Historically, retailers have viewed growth and trust as a zero-sum game.
Like a trade-off.
Right, a total trade-off. The thinking was always, well, if you want to grow fast and accept a massive volume of orders, you just have to accept that you're going to lose a certain percentage of your revenue to fraud.
Just the cost of doing business.
Exactly. Or, on the flip side, if you want to completely lock down your store and trust absolutely no one, you're going to choke your own growth, right? By putting up way too many hurdles for normal people. But Signifyd's core argument here is that growth and trust, they shouldn't be a trade-off. They're actually two sides of the exact same coin.
Right. And with the right data, you can optimize both. Which, brings up this incredibly counterintuitive dilemma of the quote-unquote good customer, because we always think of fraud protection as a shield against the bad guys, right? Like the hackers, the stolen credit cards on the dark web.
Yeah, the guys in the ski masks typing on laptops.
Exactly. But looking at the actual data from merchants here, overzealous security is actually hurting retailers way more than the criminals are. Signifyd uses this phrase, fearless conversions, and they pair it with guaranteed fraud protection. And it really makes me think of an analogy.
Oh, I love a good analogy. Lay it on me.
Okay, so it's like a bouncer at a super exclusive VIP club. The bouncer's so absolutely terrified of letting a party crasher or like an underage kid through the door that they just start heavily scrutinizing everyone.
Right, checking every little detail.
Yeah. They demand 3 forms of ID, they check the tags on your shirt, they ask you your mother's maiden name, and as a result, they end up turning away the club's best, highest-paying regulars because, I don't know, maybe their ID was smudged or they wore the wrong shoes.
That is actually the perfect way to visualize it. And what's fascinating here is the sheer financial ripple effect of that exact scenario. In the e-commerce world, turning away that VIP regular, well, that's called a false decline.
The false decline, which sounds mild, but it's really not.
It's devastating. Mechanically, a false decline usually happens because a merchant is relying on these really outdated, rigid, rules-based systems. So, for example, the system might have a hard rule that says, if the billing zip code doesn't perfectly match the shipping zip code, block the order.
Which makes sense on paper, but...
But what if you're buying a birthday gift for your mom who lives in another state?
Right. You're a perfectly legitimate customer.
Exactly. But the rigid rule just kicks you out anyway. And the data across the retail industry suggests that these false declines are often significantly more damaging to a brand's long-term survival than actual literal fraud.
Oh, yeah, because it's not just about the one shopping cart you lost, right? If I'm the customer and I get falsely declined, I don't just shrug and say, oh, well, I'll try again tomorrow.
No, you're annoyed.
I'm insulted. I'm embarrassed that my card was rejected. So what do? I immediately open a new tab and go to a competitor to buy the exact same thing.
Yep. You destroy the customer's loyalty. instantly. And when you look at the economics of it, retailers spend a massive amount of money on customer acquisition cost, or CAC. They're spending like $50 on targeted social media ads just to get you to their website in the first place.
Wow, just for the click.
Just for the click. And if you finally click buy and their own security system kicks you out, they've lost the advertising money, they lost the sale, and they lost your lifetime value, which, could have been thousands of dollars over the next 5 years, all because their digital bouncer was way too strict.
It's just wild. Take a brand like Hot Topic, which is actually featured as a major case study in these overviews. They sell, pop culture merchandise, apparel things that are highly trend-driven and often impulse buys.
Right. High emotional attachment to the purchase.
Exactly. And if you put friction in front of an impulse buy, the customer just wakes up out of the trance and closes the browser. So Hot Topic implemented Signifyd for instant recognition of legitimate customers, and their ultimate stated goal was achieving 100% order automation.
Which is the holy grail for retailers.
Yeah. Let's actually talk about what happens when an order is not automated, because from what I read, it's an absolute nightmare behind the scenes.
Oh, it really is. When an order isn't automated, it gets flagged for manual review. That means a literal human being in a back office somewhere has to pull up your transaction on a screen.
Like an actual person is looking at my order.
An actual person. They have to manually check your shipping address on Google Maps to see if it looks like a real house or maybe a forwarding warehouse. They might even try to call your cell phone to verify you made the purchase.
Who answers unknown numbers these days anyway?
Oh, nobody. Exactly. So that manual review creates massive friction. It delays shipping your item by a day or two, and it costs the merchant an enormous amount of money in human labor.
Right.
So by instantly recognizing the good customers, using thousands of identity signals to just confidently wave those VIPs past the velvet rope without a pat-down Hot Topic, can send those orders straight to the warehouse floor in milliseconds.
So the true value proposition isn't just about building a taller wall to keep the bad guys out.
Yeah.
It's about aggressively verifying the good actors so the merchant can just process transactions fearlessly.
Precisely.
Okay, so if the AI gets so incredibly good that the traditional masked hackers can't get through the front door, the criminals are naturally going to look for a back door.
Always. Water finds a way.
Right. And looking at this 2025 report data, it seems that backdoor is actually, well, it's us, everyday consumers. Here's where it gets really interesting. I was looking at the insights from their State of Fraud and Returns 2025 report, and specifically a webinar they hosted called Crimes and Cocktails.
Catchy title.
Right. But they highlight a massive surge in what they call first-party abuse, particularly during peak holiday shopping. And they define first-party abuse as things like promo stacking, unauthorized reselling, and return abuse.
Yeah, the friendly fraud.
Basically, people wearing a dress to a party and returning it the next day, or claiming a package never arrived when it totally did.
It is the defining challenge of modern retail shrinkage, honestly, because historically, fraud was a third party, someone stealing your identity. But first-party abuse, that's the actual account holder, using their own credit card, but intentionally exploiting the merchant's policies for financial gain.
And this is exactly what forces merchants to change the way they treat all of us, right?
Yeah.
Like when you, the listener, suddenly notice that your favorite online store is now charging a $7 restocking fee, or they totally got rid of their no questions asked free return policy. This is wild.
Yep, they are bleeding money to first-party abuse.
But the source material pairs this with a phrase that really caught my eye. They call it the industrialization of fraud. And we have to talk about how this works mechanically, because this isn't just like one opportunistic person acting alone anymore.
No, it's evolved way, way beyond consumer opportunism. What's happened is that this behavior has been fully industrialized. I mean, there are literal online communities, Telegram groups, and professional services out there offering fraud as a service.
Fraud as a service. That's just crazy to me.
It is. A professional refunder will systematically execute these abuses on behalf of regular consumers for a cut of the profit. So, say you buy a $1,000 laptop. You hire one of these services for $100, and they use social engineering and policy loopholes to trick the retailer into giving you a full refund.
Well, you just keep a laptop.
Well, you keep the laptop. It completely blurs the line between a clumsy customer who made a mistake and a coordinated professional attack.
Which makes it incredibly hard for a merchant to fight. Because if they just universally tighten their return policy, they punish their best, most loyal customers. So how does Signifyd actually solve this? The material points to tools like return insights and complete chargeback recovery, but mechanically, how do you separate a genuine unhappy customer who just bought the wrong shoe size from a serial return abuser who is systematically gaming the system?
It comes down to network intelligence. Think of it this way. Imagine a person walks into a casino and starts counting cards at the blackjack table. That single casino might not catch them right away because they only have a few hours of behavioral data on that guy. But if 50 different casinos all share their security footage and player data in real time, the pattern becomes obvious instantly. They see the same guy pulling the exact same scam across the entire Vegas Strip.
Ah, I see. So Signifyd operates on a similar principle, but on a massive global e-commerce scale.
Exactly. So it's not just Hot Topic looking at their own isolated database. It's the network system saying, hey, this specific device or this specific email address might be buying from you for the first time. But across our network of 10,000 other merchants, we've seen them falsely claim item not received 20 times this year.
Wow. Okay, that is powerful.
Precisely. They are resolving the digital identity of the buyer across the entire e-commerce ecosystem. By hashing and analyzing thousands of microsignals like device fingerprints, behavioral velocity, IP anomalies, they can recognize patterns of industrial abuse that are basically invisible to a single merchant.
Right, because a single merchant only sees their own little sliver of the pie.
Exactly. And having that level of network insight is really the only way to surgically remove the abuse while leaving the good customer experience completely intact.
Okay, so we're talking so much about humans gaming systems, but looking at the trajectory in the 2026 data, humans are actually kind of stepping back from the keyboard. The landscape is about to get even more chaotic because the machines are taking over the shopping itself.
Ah, yes, the agentic era.
Right. In the Global State of Commerce 2026 report, they outline these big themes of creativity, agility, economic uncertainty, and this major phrase, agentic upheaval. They are tracking a massive shift toward the autonomous economy and agentic commerce.
This is a fundamental rewiring of the buyer-seller relationship. For those who might not be super familiar with the term, agentic commerce is the idea of AI agents, highly sophisticated software programs conducting commerce on our behalf.
Right. The classic example is like your smart fridge realizing you're out of milk, negotiating the best price across 3 different grocery delivery apps, and making the purchase for you, all without you lifting a finger. Or an AI assistant booking your flights and hotels based on a vague prompt. But I have to push back on this, or at least voice a major concern I'd have if I were a business owner. If we're entering an autonomous economy where machines are doing the buying and the merchant is relying on machine learning to do the selling and the fraud protection, isn't that just a giant black box?
This raises an important question, and honestly, it is the exact crux of enterprise AI adoption right now. The material from Signifyd actually tackles the black box problem head-on. They outline their core pillars, and 2 of the most prominent are complete control and transparency into decisions.
Okay.
The platform is designed to provide the underlying data to the merchant, so they aren't in the dark.
Wait, I need to press you on that because transparency sounds like a really great marketing buzzword. But mechanically, if a machine learning model is analyzing 10,000 microscopic data points across a global network in like 2 milliseconds, a human merchant can't realistically interpret that underlying data.
Well, no, you can't just...
Right, you can't just hand a store owner a spreadsheet with a million rows of code. Does transparency actually matter if the math is too complex for a human to read? Are they still flying blind?
You're totally right. Dumping raw algorithmic weights on a merchant's desk is useless. What Signifyd means by transparency is translating those billions of data points into human-readable, actionable risk signals.
Oh, interesting. So it translates it.
Yes. If an order is declined, the dashboard doesn't just say, computer says no. It translates the complex math into a clear narrative. It'll say something like, we declined this because the physical distance between the IP address and the shipping address is 500 miles. This specific device has 0 history of travel, and the velocity of attempted purchases spiked by 400% in the last 10 minutes.
Okay, so it synthesizes the abstract math into a logical, human explanation.
Exactly. And more importantly, it pairs that explanation with control. The merchant sets the thresholds. If a merchant wants to be incredibly aggressive during, say, Black Friday and accept more risk just to capture more sales, they can adjust the AI's parameters.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. By providing this translated transparency, they are future-proofing these retailers for the agentic era. You let the AI handle the sheer speed and scale of agentic commerce because human review is physically impossible at that speed. But the human merchant retains the steering wheel, the dashboard, and the ultimate authority over their business logic.
So what does this all mean when we get out of the theoretical tech space and look at the actual survival of a business? Because at the end of the day, all the beautiful machine learning in the world doesn't matter if the company goes bankrupt. We need to tie these technological solutions back to hard numbers.
Oh, absolutely. The bottom line is ultimately what drives adoption. If the tech doesn't protect the revenue and expand the margin, it's just noise.
And the metrics Signifyd is claiming in these reports are staggering. They cite a 9% average increase in conversion. They cite the 100% order automation we discussed with Hot Topic. But the boldest claim by far is $0 in fraud losses. Zero.
It's a massive claim.
Yeah. They offer a 100% financial guarantee against fraud and claim to provide total freedom from chargebacks. There's this major case study with Philips, the massive global electronics company, highlighting significantly improved cost savings and customer satisfaction using this guaranteed model. Plus, they have heavy external validation. Fast Company named them one of its most innovative companies, and Digital Commerce 360 named them the #1 payment security and fraud prevention solution for 5 years in a row.
Those are heavy accolades in this industry for sure, but the 100% financial guarantee is the true paradigm shift. To understand why that matters so much, we really have to look at the mechanics of a chargeback and why it is an absolute existential threat to a business.
Yeah, let's break that down because most consumers don't realize what actually happens when they call their bank to dispute a charge.
Right. When a fraudulent transaction slips through, or a customer engages in first-party abuse and files a chargeback, the merchant doesn't just lose the product they shipped. The bank forcefully extracts the original payment from the merchant's account to refund the buyer. Then, the bank slaps the merchant with a penalty fee, often $20 or $30 per dispute.
Ouch.
It gets worse. If a merchant's overall chargeback rate gets too high, and we're talking usually hovering around just 1% of total orders, the credit card networks like Visa or MasterCard can literally ban them from processing payments entirely. The business effectively ceases to exist.
Wow, so it is a constant terrifying dark cloud hanging over the entire operation. So how does Signifyd's $0 claim actually work then?
By stepping in and offering a 100% financial guarantee, Signifyd is essentially acting as a real-time insurance policy on every single transaction they approve. If their AI says an order is good and it later turns out to be fraud, Signifyd pays the cost of the chargeback. They absorb the financial risk entirely.
Man, if I am a merchant and the absolute worst case scenario is suddenly wiped off my plate, that completely changes the psychology of running my business.
It changes everything.
I'm no longer playing defense, right? I'm not spending my days hunting down fraudulent transactions or fighting endless disputes with banks. I can focus entirely on offense, on growth, on marketing, on the customer experience.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, focusing on the offensive is more critical now than ever. The source material briefly mentions a tariff resource center designed to help merchants shield their margins from the impacts of new 2025 international tariffs.
Right, because the global landscape is so volatile right now.
Exactly. In an environment where global supply chain costs are fluctuating, tariffs are squeezing profit margins, and economic uncertainty is just generally high, every single dollar of revenue matters. You simply cannot afford to lose 2% of your revenue to fraud, and you really cannot afford to lose another 3% to false declines.
You're just bleeding from both ends.
Right. Protecting the profit margin at the point of checkout is the ultimate bedrock of retail survival right now. Whether you're dealing with new 2025 tariffs or the 2026 agentic commerce revolution, the foundational requirement is exactly the same. You have to be able to trust the transaction, and you have to keep the revenue you earn.
It is incredible to think about the sheer scale of what is happening behind the scenes of our daily lives. So to bring this all together for you listening, the next time you're sitting on your couch, you tap that buy button and the screen instantly transitions to order confirmed, take a second to appreciate the invisible machinery you just interacted with. Every seamless online checkout you experience, every instant refund you receive when you send a product back, it is highly likely the result of platforms like Signifyd running massive algorithmic interference. They are analyzing thousands of data points, fighting industrialized fraud, separating the good actors from the bad in milliseconds, and absorbing the financial risk so that the brands you love can actually afford to trust you. It is a brilliant system that allows commerce to scale across the globe.
It really is a remarkable ecosystem, but Synthesizing all of this data, especially the evolution of network intelligence tracking our behaviors to stop first-party abuse, it actually leaves me with a final, somewhat provocative question to consider.
Oh, I love these. Let's hear it.
Well, we talked about how systems track digital identities across thousands of merchants to separate good actors from bad. But as these networks become the ultimate centralized arbiters of trust, are we quietly heading toward a future where we each have a hidden universal commerce credit score?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, if you return too many shoes at one retailer, will an invisible algorithm silently decide that you are no longer trustworthy enough to buy a laptop or book a hotel room from completely different companies? As we move deeper into 2026, will human trust become entirely obsolete, replaced instead by a mathematically guaranteed certainty?
A universal commerce credit score tracking our every return. What happens when your everyday shopping habits dictate your global trustworthiness? That is a wild thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you breeze through an online checkout without a second thought, you'll know exactly what kind of digital war zone you just safely crossed. Stay curious, and we will catch you on the next one.